A small boy no older than 10 walked slowly onto the bright stage, his tiny frame almost swallowed by the size of the arena. The lights were dazzling, and the hush that fell over the audience made his footsteps sound louder than they were. He clutched the microphone with both hands, as if it were the only thing keeping him steady. His clothes were plain, the kind of outfit a child might wear to school, and his shoes looked a little too worn, hinting at a life where dreams weren't always easy to chase. Yet there was something in his eyes that caught everyone's attention. Those eyes, wide and glistening, didn't carry fear alone. They carried a spark of determination that pushed past the nerves twisting inside him. The judges leaned forward in their seats, their curiosity piqued. From the back rows to the front, people wondered what this fragile-looking child was about to share. The silence in the room was almost electric, as if everyone instinctively knew something special was about to unfold. Despite his small frame and timid demeanor, there was a quiet strength in the way he stood. He wasn't just another contestant. He was a child with a reason, a purpose bigger than himself. In that moment, before a single note was sung, the audience felt drawn in, as though they were about to witness not just a performance, but the unveiling of a story that would reach far beyond the stage. When the judge leaned forward and gently asked him why he had come, the boy's voice trembled at first, soft enough that the microphone barely caught it. He swallowed, then lifted his gaze with a bravery that seemed far beyond his years. He said he wanted to sing, not because he dreamed of fame or riches, but because he wanted to make his mother proud. For a moment, the vast theater grew even quieter, as though thousands of people were holding their breath at once. The boy explained in simple words that his mother used to sing to him every night, and though she was no longer there, her song still lived in his heart. His father stood just off stage, his eyes red, his hands clasped tightly as if holding back a flood of emotions. He nodded at his son, a silent message of encouragement that spoke louder than words. The boy caught sight of him and seemed to draw strength from that one look. The judges exchanged glances, their expressions softening, realizing this performance would carry more than just music, it would carry love, loss, and the kind of courage rarely seen in someone so young. People in the audience shifted in their seats, some already wiping away tears before the first note had even been sung. They understood they were not about to witness just a song, but a tribute, a child's way of keeping a parent's memory alive. In that vulnerable confession, hearts across the room began to open. The music began softly, and for a brief second, the boy's small hands shook as he gripped the microphone. His first note slipped out fragile, almost like a whisper, but then something remarkable happened. His voice, clear and soulful, filled the massive theater with a power no one expected from someone so young. It was raw, tender, and full of emotion, carrying every ounce of his story within it. The audience leaned forward, mesmerized. His trembling faded as he lost himself in the melody, his eyes closing as though he were singing not just to the judges, but to someone far beyond the stage. Each lyric seemed to reach into the crowd and touch something deep inside, a reminder of love, loss, and the courage it takes to keep going. By the second verse, the audience was visibly moved, mothers clutched their children, strangers held hands, and tears began to roll down cheeks throughout the room. Even the judges, often known for their sharp critiques, sat frozen in awe. One rested a hand over her heart, another wiped at his eyes, unable to hide his reaction. The boy's voice seemed too big for his frame, a gift that carried both pain and hope in perfect balance. It wasn't just a performance, it was a message. A child, broken by loss, had turned his grief into something beautiful. And as his final note soared into the air, the theater erupted with the sound of hearts breaking and healing at the same time. As the last note faded, the theater fell into a silence so heavy it seemed no one dared to breathe. The boy stood there, chest rising and falling, unsure of what would happen next. Then, suddenly, the entire audience rose to their feet, clapping, cheering, and shouting his name. The sound was thunderous, yet he stood frozen, almost disbelieving that all of this applause was meant for him. One of the judges pressed her hands against her cheeks, her eyes glistening. She stood and said softly into her microphone, "That was extraordinary." The boy's lips trembled into the faintest smile, tears brimming but refusing to fall. Before he could fully take it in, another judge, overwhelmed, leaned forward and slammed his palm onto the golden buzzer. In an instant, the theater exploded. Golden confetti burst from the ceiling, raining down in shimmering waves, catching the lights like falling stars. The boy's tiny frame shook as he looked upward, spinning slowly as if the moment were too magical to believe. He pressed his hands to his face, overcome by emotion, and his knees buckled slightly before he caught himself. The judges rushed to the stage, wrapping him in warm embraces. The audience roared louder, many wiping away their own tears. His father backstage dropped his face into his hands, finally letting the tears flow freely. The world had just witnessed something unforgettable, proof that even the smallest voices can command the biggest stages. Backstage, the boy sat with confetti still tangled in his hair, his tiny hands clutching the golden buzzer trophy as though it were the most precious thing in the world. Reporters and cameras crowded around, but when someone asked him how he felt, he didn't boast or talk about winning. Instead, he looked down for a moment, then raised his eyes with a sincerity that silenced the room. "I just wanted to make my mom proud," he said softly. His voice cracked, but his words carried more weight than any victory speech ever could. He explained that life hadn't always been easy, that there were times he almost gave up, but singing made him feel close to her. "And if there are kids out there who feel like their dreams are too small," he added, "I hope they know they're not. Dreams can grow big if you believe." His father, standing behind him, placed a gentle hand on his shoulder, pride and love radiating from his tearful eyes. The boy leaned against him, and for a moment it wasn't about the cameras, the show, or the fame. It was about family, resilience, and the quiet power of hope. The video of his words spread across the globe within hours, reaching millions who saw in him not just a talented child, but a reminder that even in the face of loss, love endures. He had walked on stage as just a boy, but he left as an inspiration to the world.